Humidity. Oh, the bane of summer. Oh my God. Humidity is a much bigger problem down here in the basement. When I first checked the humidity level down here, it was something like 65%. And what was happening was the whole house was starting to smell kind of earthy, basement-y, if you will. And that just cannot be. And when I came down here, there was like a slight odor of like mildew in this corner. And yeah, fun stuff. Really fun stuff. So I set to work to solve the problem. I went over to, went out looking for dehumidifiers, and I found this nice frigid air unit for $200 at my local BJ's Wholesale Club, which is about $30 cheaper than it retails elsewhere. It's rated for 70 pints. I think that's per day. And, you know, it's doing a right fantastic job. Now, I went out looking for a unit that could drain through a floor drain, because I have a floor drain under this cover here. And I didn't want to deal with a condensate pump, which just adds complexity. So I bought one with a gravity drain built in. And, well, there it is. This dehumidifier, my bad, is rated pretty well. I mean, people seem to love this one. It does a fantastic job. It's relatively, it's noisy, but it's doing a great job. It has brought the humidity level down substantially. It's now at around, it was 45% relative humidity earlier today, but it seems to have gone up a little bit since I opened the door up there and left it that way for about an hour or so. But it's right now at 47%. I have it set to, I brought it down to 50%, and I brought it down even further to 40 because I want it really dry down here. So anyway, so there it is. It's doing its thing, or is it? Before we get into that other part, and we're going to talk about a common problem with these dehumidifiers, I'm going to talk about my floor drain / sump basin. Now, when this house was built, they actually put this little opening in the concrete floor for that purpose, for the purpose of removing water from the basement. Should it ever flood, water goes down into this pit here, where it's soaked up into the earth, fed out to perimeter drains around the house. There's a French drain that encircles the foundation. I believe it's a French drain. And if that fails, it goes down into the sewer line. So let's take a look under this cover. I just built all this. What was originally here was a totally rotted wooden frame with two boards just shoved on top. It was kind of a hazard, not gonna lie. It was just a matter of time before someone comes down in the basement during a power outage to flip a breaker or something and falls in the hole and breaks both legs off. It could be me, it could be the girlfriend, who knows? But we're not gonna let that happen. Fix the problem for good. So this is a pressure-treated frame and a 3/4 inch plywood cover, and it's holding up quite nicely. The pit is lined with drainage rock, and there's my floor drain. This goes down into the, like I said, right into the sewer line, and there's a sewer clean out right there. And you can see the terracotta pipes coming out from the perimeter drains. That all sort of works as a drainage system. You notice there's no sump pump. There's no sump pump because there's no need for one. That's what this pipe is for. It goes, so if the French drains clog up or are, waterlogged, the water will then go straight to the city municipal sewer system, where it is discharged and treated at the treatment plant many miles away. And they've actually lined this pit with brick. It's definitely not aged all that well. So there you go. My frame here is bolted using heavy-duty Tapcon threaded bolts to the perimeter of this pit here. And I put 3 on each side. There's 6 total anchors. And my drain hose just goes right through this finger hole that I put in the board. Since I fixed this, the earthy smell has kind of dissipated down here. It smells much, much better than it did before. And the dehumidification process is helping with that as well. So one more thing I don't have to fix, or one less thing on my to-do list. This had to be done. I've got some people coming this Saturday to replace that furnace, and the last thing I need is one of the guys falling in this pit and suing my insurance company. That would really blow. Anyway, back to the dehumidifier. So the this is a 70 pint. I think this comes in 3 or 4 sizes. I know that Frigidaire does make a 50 pint model, and I believe they make a 95 pint model. This is like the second to the biggest one they sell. It's rated for about 1,500 square feet. This room is about 1,040 square feet, so it should be kind of at the top of its rating. You'll notice that it's sitting on a wooden platform that I just whipped together real fast. And here's why. It turns out Frigidaire dehumidifiers have a legacy of drainage problems. Yeah. So the thing is, they're advertised as having a built-in, drain that can be connected to a floor drain or what have you for continuous drainage, so you don't have to empty the bucket every 5 minutes. That's how it's advertised. It even has a nice built-in carrying handle, and it sits on 4 swivel casters. It's a nice little unit. I'm actually pretty happy with it otherwise. But lo and behold, mine has the drainage problem. So what happens is it actually doesn't send all the water out the hose. It sends some of it, but not all of it. And consequently, that bucket will start to fill up with water, which defeats the purpose of a continuous drain. Go figure. So let's do a little, let's kind of draw this out. We'll see, try to illustrate what's really going on here. So the dehumidifier works basically, it's basically an air conditioner in how it functions. You have, in an air conditioner, you have a condenser, which is consistent of a bunch of little tubes and some aluminum fins. Probably can't see that, can you? How about now? There's your condenser, and then you've got an evaporator, which is basically a mirror image of the condenser. It's the same basic part. Then you've got a little pump, a compressor with an in and an out. Then you've got a receiver dryer, which removes moisture from the refrigerant. Okay, and what happens is this pump and the receiver dryer. This is just a basic diagram. What this is here, this is going to be your hot side. This is going to be your cold side. Okay, and so how this all works is this pump here pumps refrigerant gas into the hot side through this tube here under high pressure. And what that does is it takes that gas, that refrigerant gas, and it compresses it into a liquid. That liquid now comes out of the hot condenser this is the condenser, into the evaporator, which is your cold side. So what's happening here is the liquid is pumped under pressure into the evaporator, where it is basically released under low pressure, and that liquid turns into a gas. And it's that release of energy that makes a cold surface inside this. As that gas is flowing through these tubes on the evaporator, it releases all that energy and it gets really cold. That gas then goes out the evaporator into the receiver dryer, and then from the receiver dryer back into the low pressure side of the pump. So you've got your high pressure, low pressure. And it's, again, that phase change from liquid to gas to liquid again that allows an air conditioner to turn electricity into temperature. Heat pumps basically work the same way, and in our case, our dehumidifier works exactly the same way. But in an air conditioner, these two units are in separate locations. The cold side, the evaporator, is inside the living room, or the air-conditioned space. This is the room that's air-conditioned. And the condenser, the hot side, is outside the building, or usually in an area where that heat can be transferred either to another substance like water and then carried away, or direct to air where it's outside the home or outside the building. Or in your car, it's under the hood. This is under your dash, this is under the hood. Now, how a dehumidifier works is it takes these two pieces here, these two they're called they're called exchangers or heat exchangers, radiators, heat exchangers, whatever you want to call them. They basically are heat exchangers to an extent, thermal exchangers, if you will. What a dehumidifier does is it takes these two pieces, right, and it puts them side by side. We're going to do a side profile here. It puts them side by side. So what happens is the air, this is cold, this is hot. This is your evaporator and your condenser. And the fan blows the air into the cold side, like this. There we go. The fan blows the air through the cold evaporator, where it then goes through the hot condenser. So it serves multiple purposes. Number one, it takes the air that you're trying to dehumidify and it chills it, which causes the moisture in the air to separate from the airstream itself. It condenses the moisture onto this cold surface. Think about it this way. You take a glass of tea, you put some ice in it, and then you bring it outside on a hot summer day. What's going to happen to that glass is it's going to get all sweaty and wet, and that's because the air, the hot, humid air outside, is condensing on the cold surface of the glass. And that's how a dehumidifier works. It takes that warm, humid air and it chills it. Now, once that air has passed through the evaporator, it is theoretically dry. Mostly dry, much drier than it was coming in. And that air serves to cool off the condenser. So in order for the condenser to adequately function, it has to be cooled off somehow. That excess heat has to be carried away. So what you end up with here is cold. The warm room temperature air comes in, let's say at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and then gets chilled down to about maybe, I don't know, 30 degrees. Should be above freezing, I believe. And then it gets heated back up again to about 70, 75, 80 degrees. There's probably going to be some kind of a heat increase, but ultimately That's what's going on. Now what happens to all that moisture that comes out of the air? It's got to go somewhere, doesn't it? Well, that's where we have our little design flaw. So the cold evaporator is located directly above a trough. It's not very good lighting, is it? Here, let's try that. So here's our trough. Okay, it's open on the top, but it has 5 sides, a bottom and 4 sides. And that trough normally would drain into this bucket, which is full of water. See, that's where it normally drains into. That is a bad shadow. Let's try to fix that here. That is really bad. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Really. Anyway, so this bucket here is where the water normally drips into. And then every so many hours you have to empty that bucket manually. But on a and here, oh yeah, right here, this is the port that it drains through. Right here. It's going to drain out of this port into the bucket. Now, on our frigid air dehumidifier, there's a little hose port right here. This is really bad. I'm so sorry. Okay. This is I'm left-handed, which sucks. But anyway, this is our hose port. Now we've got a hose that kind of comes off of here, right, and goes down my floor drain. There's the floor drain. Okay. There's our hose. Here's our bucket. Okay. How this is supposed to work, because it supports both draining methods. The water drips into here, and it kind of collects at the bottom of this trough. Okay, here's our water. All right, it collects at the bottom of the trough here, and normally drips out here through the bucket. Now, I have this reversed. That's better. Okay, so this is a magnified version of what we were trying to accomplish here. So here's our evaporator. Now here's our hose connector on the bottom and our bucket connector on the side here, a little bit higher than this one. And the object of the game here is, under normal circumstances, this trough is going to be filled with water up to about, let's say, ½ an inch or so, maybe an inch. I don't know, I haven't taken it apart to see. So as water drips off the evaporator like this, looks like it's crying because it is, because why not? This is filling up with water, and then once it reaches a certain height, that water is going to come out to the bucket. It's going to come dribbling out into the bucket. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of water here at all times. And then you decide you want to drain it directly into a floor drain. So what you're going to do is you're going to remove a cap that normally covers this port that's located outside the dehumidifier. And when you do, water is going to come pouring out. Now, how that's supposed to work is water will generally, unless there's an obstruction in the hose or the hose is improperly routed, the water is going to come straight out of the evaporator into that receptacle where it connects to the hose. If there's ever an obstruction, it'll be just like you have the cap still installed. The water is going to fill up this trough and come out into the bucket. And that's what's going on with all of these damn freaking frigid air dehumidifiers. What's happening is this trough is poorly designed. There is not enough water level. There's not enough space between this receptacle or this orifice and the port that drains into the bucket. So what happens is, under most circumstances, if you set it up for a direct drain, it's going to drain into the bucket because it just isn't making it to this port. And rather than redesign this trough to work correctly, they have come up with a solution. And it's a pretty half-baked solution because you lose a very important feature that these dehumidifiers offer. So let's talk about Frigidaire's magical solution. So let's draw our evaporator here. And we're going to draw our little trough, not to scale. Okay. Now, Frigidaire's solution makes sense, but it's kind of half-baked. But it works. You're going to lose an important safety feature. So let's talk out this scenario here, where normally what's going to happen is if there's ever a blockage, okay. So let's say that this hose going out to your floor drain, you probably can't see that because, well, anyway, maybe you can, maybe you can't. But if this hose is ever blocked, what's going to happen is you have a fail-safe. The water's going to drain into the bucket, right? It's going to go into the bucket, and when that bucket fills up, because you're not checking it every day, it's going to shut the dehumidifier down and prevent water from pouring all over the place. Okay, that's kind of important. That's kind of critical. And anyway, but Frigidaire's solution? Oh no, you don't need that. So here's our let's pretend that this goes to the bucket, right? And the bucket's down here. I'll even label it for you. So there's our bucket, right? There's our bucket. Water drains into the bucket because our hose connection is capped, so water can't come out here. So this fills up with water, right? Water goes into the bucket. Frigidaire, they're like, we've got it solved. We're just gonna send you a rubber cork, right? A rubber cork that blocks this friggin' thing off, right? And then this is gonna fill up with water, right? And so what's gonna happen now is water's gonna go out your hose because there's gonna be more water in this thing. So because we designed it wrong to begin with, the water's just gonna be forced to drain out of the hose. It'll have no other place to go. Yeah, just like that. Jerks. So what happens here is if the hose is ever blocked for any reason, something goes wrong, something clogs, you no longer have that fail-safe. It will no longer shut the unit down if something goes horribly awry. Jackasses. Anyway, so that's their solution. But there's another part to this that I didn't mention. And that is they actually ship you, along with this rubber stopper, they're going to ship you a device that threads onto the bucket connection on the back, or the hose connection on the back of the unit. And it looks something like this. So here's the threaded fitting here. And here's the device. And your hose screws on to the bottom of it, right? And then at the top, there's a little opening, like a little port. Now this port is a vacuum breaker. So what happens is water will dribble out of this unit, out into the hose, like that. There's a hose. There's our hose. So water's going to dribble out of here. But sometimes, what the real problem is a buildup of vacuum in this region here, which causes the water to siphon. Think of it this way: when you drop a drinking straw into a cup of soda and you cover the end, you pull it out. Well, that's the vacuum we're talking about. And in order for a drain to work correctly, it has to have some form of vacuum release or vacuum breaker of some design. Every house drainage system has such a device, and there's a vent pipe that goes up through the roof. That's to break the vacuum so that the drains can flow freely. And that's what this little fitting gives you. I mean, that's not a bad idea. But this right here, this shit, that's a bad idea, because this can cause property damage. if the drain hose ever clogs, fails, or gets kinked. So, long story short, I have that kit on order, but I've devised another solution that I actually like a little bit better than what they're telling us to use. And we're gonna talk a little bit about obtaining the kit and some ridiculousness I had to deal with. But my solution was, if you give the dehumidifier a slight backwards lean, what it does is it forces the water, it brings it closer to the drain port on the back here. So what's really happening is the level is just too far forward, so it prefers the bucket drain over the hose drain. But if you give the dehumidifier a slight backwards tilt, it's going to go through the drain on the back first. It's better than their solution, because if the hose ever kinks, like I said in the drawing stage of this video, the water will have another place to go, that being the bucket. And in doing so, it will have that additional shut-off feature if you forget to check the bucket in a couple of days or what have you. So that is my solution. What I did is I built a wooden platform, and I raised the front edge a little bit with a piece of scrap wood. And so far it's been working fine. I will be installing the factory authorized kit, or maybe I won't. But I did order one just to have it, because I feel that I am entitled to one because of their shitty design. So how do you get the kit? Well, this is talked about all over the internet. You have to call an 800 number, which is in the owner's manual and on the side of the machine, if I'm not mistaken. You call the 800 number, and you're going to get a customer service agent, and you're going to tell them your serial number and your model number, date of purchase, and purchasing place of purchase. And they're going to charge you $10 for something you should have gotten in the box when you bought the damn thing. That's right. They wanted to charge me $10 for their mistake. I kindly told the lady that I'm sorry, but I will not be paying for this kit. I said it in a very nice way. And she says, well, let me look into that. She was from the South. And not India, but no, the southern part of the U.S. She had that probably, I'd say West Virginia, maybe Georgia accent, I'm thinking. So anyway, I called up the Frigidaire, and I said, hey, just bought this damn thing, and it don't work. Now, here's the thing. I bought the unit, and I had to state this many times. She's like, now, why do we think you need to get one for free? And I said, well, honey, I bought this unit because it says right on the box, continuous drain option. Now, nowhere in the owner's manual did I see any optional accessories. It doesn't say continuous drain option with purchase of part number QXY21589 at a cost of $10. Nowhere does it say that. It's not mentioned anywhere on the unit. And I'm like, what the hell? I paid money. I expect it to do what the box says it to do. I mean, it's not like I'm buying an Xbox and it shows pictures of people having fun playing Mario Kart because apparently they have that on Xbox now. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But anyway, I emphasized that it was an advertised feature, and I expect it to work as advertised. And she says, well, we need to charge you $10, mister. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think you should check on that. I think you should speak to somebody higher in management. Somebody, I don't know who. But anyway, I'm not paying you $10 for something that should have come with a freaking unit when I bought it. And I told her, I'm like, if I have to, and I was nice, I said, if I have to pay $10 for this damn thing, then I'm just going to send it back to the store and buy one from another company. And then she's like, well, I'm going to check on that for you. So I'm like, all right, thank you very much. And so she was gone for like, hell, 5 minutes. And then she got back and said, let me confirm that serial number. And I'm like, all right, so let's confirm the serial number. And yeah, okay, model number, yeah, purchase here at this such and such date and time. And she says, well, I gave her my address, and there we are. So she's sending me the kit for free, and I didn't even have to pay shipping. So now the thing is, this is a known issue. This has been discussed for years on these dehumidifiers. Sorry, it's been discussed for years that they have had this design flaw, and they have not fixed it even yet. Apparently, I'm just speculating here, their modus of operandation, their MO, or the way they operate, is they're hoping that, because I mean the kit costs money to produce. It adds like probably $1 to the production cost of every unit. So, think of the Ford Pinto bumper fiasco theory, where they save 15 cents per car by killing 5,000 people indirectly. So they're thinking that, well, if we don't have to spend money, if we can avoid spending money redesigning the unit, and we can avoid sending the drainage kit to every single customer who owns one by not including it in every box, profit, huh? Profit, baby. So what they're doing is, they know damn well that there's a problem with these units. I mean, it's a fantastic dehumidifier in all other aspects. It does what it's intended to do. It makes air drier. But the thing is, what they're doing is they're saving probably about $2 per unit by not including those parts. And the amount of money that they're saving by not having to redesign the trough and the drainage system entirely, come on. It makes sense from a business standpoint. So when customers complain loudly enough, oh, well, here's a kit. Have fun. Enjoy your dehumidifier. Because they know that most people probably don't use a drain hose. Most people are going to use the built-in drain bucket. Makes sense. And if they sell, let's say, 50,000 of these damn things over the course of a couple of years, and 1,000 people complain about the drainage problem, think about it. They have saved $100,000. No, a little less than that. But they have saved, let's say none of those 50,000 people complain, and the kit costs $2 to produce. They've saved $100,000 right there. That's just how manufacturing works. That's how they think. $100,000 of money not spent on these dehumidifiers. And if 1,000 people complain, that's going to cost them, out of that $100,000, it's going to cost them $2,000. It makes sense. I mean, I get it. I used to work for a guy who was manufacturing his own test equipment and selling it all over the world. And I was asking him about the design of the unit. I'm talking about the Anatech Blue ESR meters. So if you own one of these, this affects you. You'll notice that if you have a blue Anatech ESR meter, when you press the power button, it's a momentary switch. Okay, so I needed visual aids because it makes it easier to visualize. This is an Anatech Blue ESR meter. Many of you own these, and many of you aspire to own these. They're still available if you want one. I asked John, the engineer who designed this product, why he went with a momentary contact power switch over a standard on-off switch. And the reason I asked was because a large amount of circuitry is involved in making these momentary contact switches, turn on and off. And also, there's always a parasitic drain off the battery when the unit's not in use. And it gave me an insight into the mind of an engineer, especially as it comes to cost cutting. This is a cost cutting move. That's why he did it this way. Believe it or not, the net cost of the components needed for the momentary contact switch were cheaper than the cost of a standard on-off power switch. Even though there are many, many more parts and a lot more engineering involved in making a momentary power switch power the unit on and off. There's a lot more circuitry for that specifically. And the way he described it to me will stick with me for the rest of my life. And now I understand why manufacturers do things the way they do. Because when it comes down to cost, when even a small amount of money, the smallest amount of money, when multiplied over hundreds of thousands of units, can be tremendous. This little design feature, which personally I would have rather paid more to have a hard on-off switch, but this whole big, the cost of the extra diodes, transistors, and resistors and the switch itself, all encompassed, was still cheaper than a standard power switch by about 5 cents, a nickel. It was, I want to say it was a nickel. It was an insignificant amount of money over the price of the unit, considering what he charged for these. But that nickel multiplied by 100 units. Now, you think about this. I mean, a lot of the things we use today are designed with that in mind. Small amounts, 1 or 2 cents per unit. That 1 or 2 cents adds up significantly over the course of a production run. So we now know why the drain. Now, the cost of redesigning that dehumidifier over there, the cost of redesigning this trough system, it would be tremendous, but it would be a one-time expense. So I kind of wonder if they're going to, if the unit is on maybe a 10-year life cycle, and the next version might have a solution, but it makes more sense. But here's where it really, I really question their sanity, because why design a kit that's so elaborate and deletes a very critical safety feature when they could have just made 2 plastic wedges or changed the height of the front wheels and given the unit a slight lean towards the back and solved the problem for a fraction of the cost? It would have been much cheaper, I think, to make the wheels longer. But I'm not an engineer. I'm not paid to be designing dehumidifier drainage systems, and I'm not even a carpenter. I fake it till I make it, and that's how I live my life. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has been somewhat entertaining and informative. Yeah, another little point I want to point out because I like to point things. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has been somewhat remotely educational, informative, or what have you. So, thank you very much. And Saturday, this beast is going out of here. Can't wait. I'm going to probably snag that blower out before they come and get it, because that's a good blower. I know someone who could use that. Maybe my dad, I don't know. So, that's a damn good blower. New motor, too. I don't know. I think I should save that. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will. Yeah. I want to take a moment at the end of this video to express my condolences and my sadness over the loss of Aussie50. Aussie50 was a YouTuber from Australia who was famous for producing videos that involved destroying things, explosions, and all that crazy fun stuff that we all want to do but either don't have the guts to do or don't have the facilities to make it happen. Aussie50 took his own life on May 29th, which is just a few days after my 35th birthday, and I'm just finding out about this now. Every once in a while I'll check out the two Australian YouTubers that I watch, Aussie50 and his friend V8 Jagnut. I've been watching them for years, and I just love their content. Aussie50 was a rising star on YouTube. He had just shy of 100,000 subscribers, and he's not the first YouTuber to do this, which is just heartbreaking. Nobody could see it coming. I mean, he didn't have, I watched his last couple of videos, and I found that they were starting to get a little bit, you could see, in hindsight, you could see something was amiss. But then again, I upload videos that aren't cheerful and happy all the time either, and I'm just fine. But you never know. Until somebody does something like that they cannot undo, it's it just makes you think. Such a senseless loss. And could it have been prevented? Absolutely. If he had sought help, if he had just maybe yeah, he could have gotten help, and he would still be alive today making the content that we all know and love. And it's just really heartbreaking when that happens. You don't know what was going on in his mind when he made that decision and carried it out. But again, I don't want to get too deep into this, but Aussie50, wherever you are, I don't know. But I do want to say this. If any of my fans or fellow YouTubers want someone to talk to, reach out to someone. Find somebody you can talk to. Talk to me. Find somebody to vent, to unload what's bogging you down, what's causing you pain, because to take your own life like that is something that you cannot undo. And he was young. He was younger than me. I think he was 33, and he had his whole life ahead of him. And it's just so heartbreaking that this is becoming all too common these days. And it's becoming a regular thing, and it's got to stop. Life isn't that bad. It may not be perfect, but it's not that bad. It'll never be perfect. Don't set yourself up for that. But, things get better, things get worse. It's just the way it is. But, yeah. Seriously, just take a moment of silence for Aussie50 and his family, his friends, his fans. And if you're one of them, and you're seeing this, send my heart out to you. Well, on that note, I think I'm going to start uploading and editing more videos. Thank you for watching. And all of this crap came with the house. All these bolts, nuts, screws. That was a good find. Okay, well, over and out.